Okay, this is a Zenith. It's an 8H034, and this was one of Zenith's first post-war radios. This is from 1946. I also believe this is the first FM radio to use the FM 100 band. So over here it has FM 45, FM 100, and below that it says standard broadcast. So before the war, FM was on this band from 42 to 48. 42 to 48 was the original FM band, and then after the war they switched it to the modern FM band, 88 to 108. I've heard a couple different reasons for this. I've heard one reason is that RCA was not investing in FM technology and they wanted to kill FM. So they used their clout to convince the government to change the FM band, and by doing that they would essentially render useless all the FM radios that had been sold, which would set the acceptance of FM back. And another reason that I heard was because of all the technology developed for the war. A lot more frequencies that before the war were thought to be useless were then useful because of the higher frequency technology developed for the war effort. And also after the war they reshuffled the television channels, and as a result of rearranging the television channels they also rearranged the FM band. But regardless, this is probably one of the first FM radios to use the 88 to 108 band. I do like the cabinet for this, although the cabinet's in pretty bad shape, especially at the top. A lot of the finish is missing, but that's not a problem. I've gotten radios like this before and refinished them and they turned out pretty good. A bigger problem is this missing veneer. I'm going to have to see if I can replace that. But anyway, let's see if we can get this thing working. So let's see the back. It actually does have the back. Usually the radios like this are missing the back. It has the back, but someone's cut off the cord. I have to replace that. These are the antenna terminals, probably for FM. But let's get this open and see what it looks like inside. Okay, so the back should just come right off. So on the inside of the back cover they have their, to be kind of like what a cheater cord is. I think they had cheater cords in 1946. I'm not quite sure why Zenith did this type of thing. We see the power cord would go in this side and then this connects to the plugs down here. A lot of other Zenith radios at the time used that as well. I'm not quite sure why. These are hot chassis radios though, but I'm not quite sure why they didn't use a standard cheater cord. So this is our first view. You can see some of the tubes in there. Not sure if you can see that or not. This set is all metal tubes except for one miniature tube. Let's take the knobs off the front. Maybe. Alright, I'll have to come back to this. Okay, I managed to get the knobs off. These black ones actually have a brass plate riveted on the back. It's kind of interesting. Of course, this one came off. I'll have to see if I can reattach that. They're just attached with little plastic rivets there, so I could probably just glue it back on. So let's see. Got a tube chart on the bottom there. Missing two screws. The two screws. Oh, you can't really see that. The two screws in the top are missing. Take these two out. Notice the cabinet is starting to separate a little bit here. So it looks like the this outside piece, which wraps all the way around, is one big piece, and this piece in the middle is a different piece. It's starting to separate there. See if I can glue it and clamp that back on. Starting to look like this radio was left out in the rain or out in the barn for a number of years. Lots of rust and deterioration. So either the time this radio was released, I think it cost like $89 or something in 1945. And I think in today's money that would be like almost $1,000, which is quite a lot of money for a radio, although this is FM, which would have been pretty fancy for the time. So, let's take a look at what it looks like outside. Okay. Pretty, really dirty. There's our dial cord all over the place. Almost looks like a mouse or something was in here. All kinds of seeds. Alright, so we've got our dial cord. Got dial lamps here. Barely recognizable under all the dust. There's some holes here. Probably a mouse was chewing on it. See, it looks like most of the numbers are pretty much intact, luckily. So hopefully I can just patch up these spaces and paint them black, and they shouldn't be too noticeable. I do think this originally had a dial glass, but that seems to be missing. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do about that. So this will have to be redone. Looks like the mouse got to that. Probably shoot it in half. This is our tuning. Okay, so there's actually two dial cords. Back here there's a separate dial cord here that connects the tuning knob to the tuning capacitor, and then a separate one that connects it to the actual dial here. So I'll have to replace that. The other one seems intact. When I turn this, when I turn this, you can see the tuning capacitor still tunes. So let's take a look underneath and see what we've got here. Alright, so looks pretty original. See some Zenith caps. See some Zenith caps here. Zenith, what's this? There's some wax coming out. Probably from a leaky capacitor. Atom, that's a Sprague. Sprague atom there. I wonder if that's original. I'm not sure when Sprague came out with those Sprague atoms. That's Zenith, that's Zenith. This looks pretty original. So, we got a can dome just in there. I think what I'm going to do first is probably first replace the electrolytic, and I'll have to wire in a cord, because I'm sure a regular cheater cord won't work on this, because if you look at the connector on the back, the two pins are different sizes, so a regular cheater cord won't work on that. And this is riveted on, so I have to drill that out to replace the cord there. So I'll probably just quickly solder in a cord for now, so we can test this out. And the reason why I'm going to replace the electrolytics first... Ooh, how's that speaker? Speaker's not so healthy. Huh. That might have to be... Doesn't seem to be rubbing, but it looks to be separating around there. I have to glue that back down. Anyway, take a look at the tubes here. Oh, there's seeds up there as well. I hope none of these coils were chewed on. I have to look at that closer. This is our rectifier. Maybe I won't have to replace the electrolytics first. I'm going to say that is not the rectifier. No, that's an output tube. I'm going to look for the rectifier. The rectifier is... That might be the rectifier. What is this? 25. Yeah, that's the rectifier. Okay. This is the rectifier. That's not a metal tube. So actually I can just go ahead and try this. What I was going to say was if the rectifier is a metal tube, you won't be able to see if it's red plating. But since it's not, though you can't see in this one because it's so dirty. Anyway, I'm going to get a power cord tied in here, turn it on and see what happens. If the rectifier starts red plating, obviously we have shorted capacitors and I'll have to change those before proceeding. But let's see what happens when we power this up. Okay, so one side of the AC line comes in. Use my pointer. One side of the AC line comes in here and goes right over here, so I tacked one side of my cord onto this, and the other side comes in here and goes down to the switch here, so I tacked my other side of the cord onto that. I also clipped out this capacitor here. This is the across the line capacitor. These a lot of times short and explode, so I clipped that out just for safety. So we'll turn this down. That's nice. So chassis has these little holes on the side. I can just feed my cord right out there. So I'm going to plug this in and turn it on, and let's keep our eye on, this is the rectifier here. Let's keep our eye on that and make sure it doesn't red plate. I think this is off, yes. So let's see what happens. Alright, so we're plugged in, and let's see what happens. Just turn off the lights. Well, it's glowing. This is a series string set. Alright, let's replace the capacitor before we go any further. That's definitely AC hum off the capacitor. I don't want the speaker to vibrate itself to death. So let's replace the capacitors and go from there. But it's a good sign, nothing exploded or shorted or anything. So that's positive. Okay, so some things I noticed. These holes down here that I use as a routing space for my cord are actually where these are supposed to go. And these are insulators, so these go in here. Something in there somehow. However they go in there, and then the bolts go through the bottom of the cabinet and then into here. And that prevents, because this is a hot chassis set, that prevents the user from being exposed to the high voltage, or not high voltage, but the line voltage, because these isolate them from it. So even if they were to reach under the cabinet and touch the screw, this would prevent them from getting a shock. Also, I noticed inside the cabinet, oops, if you can see this here, I have a nice bonus sheet of asbestos in the top. I think both the rectifier and the output tube are under that side, so that's probably why that's there. It looks like the other side never had one, so there are tubes on both sides, but most of the heat will probably be on this side because that's where the rectifier and output tube are. Anyway, I got the schematic here, as you can see, it calls for 3 40 microfarad capacitors. Over here it probably says the voltage, if that's actually readable. That's resistors. 40 microfarad electrolytic, 120 volts looks like. Well, I've got 3 here at 350 volts, so that'll be fine. Kind of interesting, these new capacitors are almost the same size as the 3-section original capacitor. Kind of interesting. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to shove these. Another thing to note on the suggested changes that came with this, so just adding a 20 microfarad, so we're going to have to see if someone did that underneath. So let's take a look here. So what's this guy? Ah, 20 microfarads. So it looks like someone did add that. So I'm guessing that all 3 original capacitors are in that can there. Kind of hard to tell. See a square, a triangle. Yeah, that's a 3-section cap. So, kind of interesting. I wonder why these guys are so big. I have to shove these in somewhere. And also replace that. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and replace all the electrolytics to start with. And once I'm done with that, I just noticed something here. Look at this, they actually numbered the pins. Nope, on the, that must be an IF transformer. They actually numbered the pins on the IF transformer. That's interesting. I don't think I've seen that before. Here, they've done it up here too. And over there. Huh. That's a nice feature. I know that they might have stamped the rating on the canned ohm resistor too. 30 ohms, 67 ohms. Does that match the schematic? Let's see if we can find it on here. Yeah, I'm not really seeing it on here. I'm going to have to look for that and see if that's the actual right readings. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and replace these caps and then we'll try powering it up again and see if it changes. Okay, so I went through and replaced the electrolytics. The original electrolytic was right here. I cut it off and put one of the new ones in there. And the others, so this is the 22. This is the 22 microfarad that replaced this guy. That was the later addition. This was in the suggested changes. I think it was to reduce, let's see what it says. I was here in the suggested changes. Drift in the FM oscillator, it says. Be corrected by making the changes indicated. So that was there for reducing oscillator drift. Apparently these early FM pre-AFC radios were pretty well known for oscillator drift. I have a Zenith from around the early 1950s that has pretty significant oscillator drift, but I also have another one from 1949 that seems pretty solid. It doesn't really drift at all, so I'm not quite sure why some do and some don't. Well, we'll see how this performs with this cap in here. This is one of the electrolytics. That one there is this one here. off this supply after the field coil for the speaker. And this one here is this one here, which is the filter before the field coil. So this is a pi filter. The rectifier here comes in through a resistor, then over to this capacitor, then through the field coil, then to another capacitor here. And that forms a pi filter. And then the one on top is this one here, which is the cathode bypass filter for the output tube. So let's plug this back in, turn it on, and we'll see what happens. We've got dial lights. And the tubes are lighting up. Alright, we've got something. Not sure what band we're on. This tuning capacitor is pretty stiff. Volume pot seems pretty dirty. Have to clean that. Nothing on that band. There's something. There was something there a minute ago. That may or may not be silver mica disease. There's something.
The executives might just want to keep more money on the balance sheet, or they want to pay themselves bigger bonuses. Well, what's the response to all that?
Well, they may want to pay themselves bigger bonuses, I'm sure they do. But the reason they don't keep the money on the side is because they now can make more money by by investing and creating more jobs and output. That's as simple as that. If you
Yeah, that might be silver mica disease. Tapping on the IF cans here seems to have an effect.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, if you can make money, you're going to invest money, sure.
Of course, and that's what this does. It increases the return on making money.
Now,
I think this is the AM band.
Rates, speaking to Art Laffer.
So that could either be the flaky volume control, although I doubt it. It could be an intermittently shorting capacitor, because I still have all the old paper capacitors in here. Or it could be what I'm kind of thinking it is, silver mica disease, where the capacitors inside these IF cans intermittently short or go open or whatever. So I think these Zeniths are infamous for that. And it sounds exactly like this, like a thunderstorm in the background. And sometimes tapping on the IF cans can affect it. Let's just try the FM band and see if we get anything on that. If I can even turn the knob, that is. Oh, there's something there. Alright, let me clean this volume control and we'll try again. Alright, so I went through and I cleaned the volume control and the band switch, so let's see what happens this time. Notice how the dialights light up real bright and then dim down as the tubes start to warm up. That's because they're connected in series with the other tubes. So that's much cleaner. There's something. I think my dial cord may have broke. That's unfortunate. Let's see if I can tune this another way. I'm stuck with something. I'm not sure what happened here. It's not moving now. So apparently when you turn the volume up too high, it just cuts out. That might be a bad volume control. Or I'm not sure what else that would be. It looks like most of these tubes are the original Zenith tubes, so that could be part of it. Also, I haven't replaced any of the paper capacitors, so I'm probably going to go through and do that. But even with all the old paper capacitors in there, still getting audible reception. It would be a lot better if the speaker wasn't in such deteriorated condition, but that's supposed to be 104, but that's pretty close to the end of the dial. Maybe it'll be okay. All that stuff can be adjusted though once I replace all the other capacitors, but that speaker is absolutely horrendous. I wonder if YouTube's copyright identification will be able to identify based on that. It's like playing music through a kazoo. But did get some reception, so I'm going to go through and replace all those other capacitors probably and see where we stand after that. So I didn't have all of the capacitors that to replace in here, but it's just the real bad ones. I guess you can kind of see that. See how it's all waxy, leaking out. So I replaced the ones like that were pretty bad that I had replacements for. So I'm not expecting a big change, but let's see what happens. This speaker's pretty bad. I'll probably have to do that next. Remember, this is without an antenna, too, so...
without you. You brought the plans and you put me through hell. I had to learn how to. You say we got nothing in common ground.
Let's try AM, see if it still sounds like a thunderstorm. The answer would be yes. Now, let me see if these lights cause any interference. That didn't seem to help. Yeah, I think that's silver mica. Seems to only be affecting the AM capacitors though, which is interesting. It mostly goes away when you go to FM though.
Share the love and help make a difference in our community. At Routes 22 and 512 in Bethlehem.
Hi, this is Dave Copew from Faulkner Subaru in Bethlehem.
For 85 years of customer satisfaction, it's Faulkner Subaru to
Oh, this is going to have to be part 1. I'm going to have to order some capacitors and we'll see if that makes a difference. And also do a lot of work on the cabinet. But better off than when we started, so hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.